Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to our global webinar on optimizing your grain investment, how to safeguard the economics and quality of grains. With us today is Peter Stein, but before we start today's webinar, I would like to go over a few administrative points with you. My name is Marcella, and I will be your host for today's webinar, and I will be helping Peter getting through some of your questions and also running a few polls. With regards to the questions, there is a little question box inside the GoToWebinar menu, and please feel free to type your questions over there, and we will have a few moments throughout the webinar where we have some time to answer your questions. So please enter them as they come up. Today we all are really looking forward to getting your input as well. So we have prepared 3 polls that we will run today throughout the webinar to get your input. So please keep your eye out for those polls. And last but not least, we are recording today's webinar, and we will be sharing the recording with you afterwards. So don't worry if some parts go a little bit fast, or if you want to recap a few of the content webinar contents, because you will be receiving this as well. So before I hand over to you, Peter, welcome. I would like to introduce you.
Thank you, Marcella.
Yeah, with us today is Peter Stein. He is the Global Program Manager for the Raw Material Quality Program of Selco. And born and raised in South Africa, where he attained his bachelor degree in marketing management at the University of South Africa. Peter has been working in the agricultural industry for over a decade, spending 3 years at a local feed additive company in South Africa. His focus has always been on feed safety in feed mills, which also included raw material preservation as well as salmonella control in final feeds. And after spending time working in South Africa, he joined Trow Nutrition South Africa, where he took the position of area manager and focused on premix, farm minerals, and also our Selco feed additive portfolio. He was also tasked with expanding the presence of feed safety with a focus on feed milling. He relocated to the Netherlands in September 2020 to be part of the global feed safety and quality team in his current role as Global Program Manager for Raw Material Quality. His responsibilities are to provide technical support to our customers as well as our operating companies when it comes to microbial risk management in raw materials and grains. The focused raw material product groups that he focuses on are including the main grains, grain byproducts, as well as protein meals. So without further ado, Peter, please feel free to take over and start sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you so much, Marcella, for the introduction, and also welcome to the audience. Thank you also for joining us. As I can echo with Marcella, good morning, good afternoon, and also good evening in some parts of the world. So thank you so much for being with us to also discuss, I think, a very relevant topic currently. Also what we see, what's happening in the market as well. So just before we start, just a little bit about our company as well, and also our purpose. So yeah, and that's the question we ask ourselves. I think all of us at one point is how to feed the growing world population in a sustainable way, with the population growing so fast, and yeah, also resources also getting less and less. So we need to do more with less. So really our focus, because we as a company are quite in different types of the feed industry, so we really feel that we can make a difference. Hence our purpose really to aid in feeding the future, and that also starts with feed safety. Marcella also mentioned that I'm a part of that team. So just a brief overview of how we as a feed safety team is made up. So we are really spread nicely across the feed chain, or feed supply chain. So right from raw materials, so basically what we would call seed to feed, then also from feed, also from the feed side, feed processing quality, where we look on the commercial feed mill side, and also onto the integrators, and then also on the food processor side with our food to feed quality. So that's basically upcycling the co-products from the food industry, and then also using that valuable raw materials also again in the feed. So really a circular program from the feed supply chain. So we're really looking at, and also last but not least, also across the chain, we also have the mycotoxin risk management. I think that's also very prevalent as we go through the chain. So we also have a program for that. So just the makeup of our feed safety team and programs. So just sharing with you the agenda for today. So I would just like to, as a start, go through the current macroeconomic situations that we're facing. I think there's obviously a lot of talk about the Ukraine and Russia conflict at the moment, and also our thoughts over the families on that side that is also being touched by that. So really thinking of them at this moment, but also then the COVID pandemic, which is somewhat in some regions of the globe is not forgotten, but it's a little bit on the back burner because of the Ukraine and Russia conflict, but it's still very relevant and it's still here with us, as we also see in Asia. So also our thoughts with them on that side. And then secondly, also looking at the microbial challenges. So not just what's happening in the market from the economic point of view, but also the challenges that we face specifically in raw materials. So looking at the microbes in the feed ingredients and also factors that promote those microbes. And then also looking at the strategies to optimize our investment. And I think also the 4 pillars of a bigger strategy. So also looking through that, and then just some take-home message at the end. So just jumping right into the macroeconomic situation currently. So I've put a couple here, and then I'll also just go into more deeply into some of them. So like I mentioned, the COVID-19 pandemic definitely still with us, and also we've seen in the last 2 years has also put some strain on supply chains, logistics, and also has a huge impact on the global economy and population. Then the Ukraine-Russia conflict, I think also from a grain perspective, a very relevant topic at the moment. Global distribution chain, I think those both two also was a contributor to the global distribution chain being compromised. Also prices going up, energy prices, fuel prices. Then also have a look at the harvest outlook and specifically also focusing on the corn and wheat, which we also see is heavily affected by the Ukraine and Russia conflict. And then also in the feed price index, I think all of us are part of that industry, and we are affected in some way or form. So if I can start with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and I've put some obviously some pointers here, but also just like to give you a bit of a summary in the sense, and I think by talking to people in the industry and the market and customers, we really, there's really one word to describe, and that's uncertainty. So physically, can we get the raw materials? Can Ukraine, can they get that harvest out? Also from a fertilizer point of view, Russia is really a big producer of the ingredients of the fertilizer. Also, what will that mean for let's say for the guys in Brazil and in South America? Will they be able to so they're a big exporter of grains and also a big importer of fertilizer. So how would that make up, how will that affect the global crops? Also, import-dependent countries, they have to take a bit longer positions, also longer storage space. And logistic-wise, I think we were already, from a logistic point of view, under pressure when COVID hit, and in that time. So I think it just puts more pressure on logistics and supply chain as well, and then also the availability of storage. So that's something that we also need to look in. So really a couple of a lot of important factors that this Russia-Ukraine conflict has affected as of now, and then also has the uncertainty has also pushed prices up quite a bit. not just the raw material prices, but then coupled with the logistic and supply issues or challenges. We've also seen previously, which started in the COVID-19 pandemic, just the supply, where they had 1 out of 4 containers actually do arrive on time. So there's very long wait periods, so availability, and that also affects the quality because it needs to be stored longer. They are quite compromised. It's also if they in storage for long, there's a lot of factors that can contribute to microbes growing. So really, from a quality and availability point of view, this is really something that we need to look at. If we go to the next one, which is the energy price and inflation, I think we all are quite heavily hit with that, not just, let's say, from a producer perspective, but also a consumer perspective. So energy, fuel, and inflation, production costs are going up. As you would also know, transport is going up because of the fuel. So really, this also puts a lot of pressure. Also, from a producer perspective, if you can see the graph on the right, really the producer inflation index is much higher than the consumer at this stage. So also the bridging that gap, passing on that also the raw material costs, and also the dependence on EU for natural gas is also quite huge from a global perspective. So that also puts a lot of pressure, specifically if we look at the Ukraine situation. And as long as the tension remains, unfortunately, we will see higher prices, even as far as to the middle of 2023. So obviously not good news, but it's unfortunate in reality. So yeah, we really need to look at ways to optimize our investment in that sense. So when we look at the harvest, so this is the harvest for 2021 and 22, and I'll also just move a little bit into the corn and the wheat side as well. So this is just an overview of what we've seen. So really increase in the wheat production in Australia and India. I think in the past they've also been almost called to aid, if you will, when there was a crisis or a shortage across the world. So they've really upped their imports or their production, which I also touch on a little bit on the wheat side. Also, the increase in corn production in the US. They've also set some export targets. So we also would heavily rely globally on the US for that. Also, Argentina and Brazil drought. Will this have a big impact also on the yield and also on the quality? So where we also see, I think that's also a big question. How will that impact obviously the production? Now, and Asia and the EU will definitely be heavily reliant on the US until, let's say, July, when the Brazil crop is available, which I say about July. So there's definitely a certain period that will definitely be also adding to the uncertainty currently in the market. So again, maybe not good news, but also something that we need to be aware of. So just on the corn side of things, so really we, from a global production, expected at 1.2 billion metric tons, which is actually an increase from last year, from last season. Like I mentioned, the US will be the preferred supplier, and they've already hit the 86% of their target of 63.5 million metric tons of exports. So in a sense, I think, yeah, still a little bit room to go, but they've at least at this stage at 86%. Brazil also expected to reach record highs of 44.5 million metric tons of exports, specifically on corn, obviously, by July. Yeah, so I think much needed corn, definitely from the Europe side and also North Africa. And also the fear that the Ukraine harvest will be cut in half. I think that is there was again uncertainty if it would be 40% or 30%, but there's an estimation that from last year this year will be 50% of that. So we see really a shortage on the corn. So yes, I think summary, United States will definitely be be the one we would look at for the corn exports. And then lastly, just on the wheat side, so also the global production is a little bit up, so about 2.1 million metric tons more than last year. Also, 205 million metric tons of that production are exported. Again, Russia and Ukraine account for quite a lot of that, 40% of the global, well, on the export side. So again, from the wheat side, we also will be under pressure. And like I mentioned, Australia and India have a good price position. Also from a production point of view, they've increased production. Also from Australia, so really being able to at least fill a little bit of that gap. If you take Russia exports into account, to Turkey and Egypt, also see that because of the high prices, Egypt has already cancelled, I think, 2 tenders on the wheat side. So also looking to other countries or regions for supply, and also the same with Turkey on that side. And then we also have obviously the drought situation in southern and central Europe as well. So really a tough, not just from a geopolitical point of view, but also from a planting point of view, from a weather point of view. We've seen also the drought in South America. So really a lot of pressure that's on the grain supply chain and production. So if I could just put it in summary, I think again, like I mentioned before at the start, uncertainty, a lot of uncertainty in terms of supply, in terms of quality of our grains. What will the costs be for that? I think also with the energy costs. So yeah, we keep talking about costs, and maybe the quality not being what it could be or what it should be. So really something we need to take into account to make sure that investment that we make, that we at least get value for that investment. And I think with that, Marcella, we are ready for the first poll.
Yes, we are. So really looking forward to getting some of your input here. Peter, you mentioned just now about when you mentioned about the harvest in Ukraine and Russia being affected. Can you tell a little bit about the sowing of the new seeds? Is that going to go as planned, or most likely that will also be affected, right?
Yeah. So I think that was also from the get-go, that shock of will we get raw materials out or grains out was also, are we able to harvest? As far as we know that the seeds are available, it's just we're not sure if it's going to be produced and how much is going to be produced. Like I mentioned also, we already see the production in Ukraine is cut in half. So I think that might paint not a great picture, but we do see, unfortunately, the seeds are available, but probably not going to be able to get the full production out of that, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. In the meantime, before we launch this poll, for those of you who joined a little bit later, if you have questions for Peter, please feel free to enter them in the questions box in the GoToWebinar menu. And with each poll, we will also have a bit of time to answer some of your questions. So for now, let's start this first poll. This is a question where you can actually enter multiple answers. So here we go. How did the current macroeconomic situation impact your business, or has it even impacted your business already? Feel free to enter those answers that are applicable for you. Great, I see people are already voting.
Yep, it's picking up.
I will leave it open for a little bit longer to allow everybody to select their choices. Okay, I will move to close the poll and then I will share the results on the screen.
I think I need
Here we are. Interesting that, well, at least it's clear that nobody selected the answer that they did not see any effect yet.
Yeah.
So obviously that is clear that it's clearly affecting everybody, with the availability and the cost of production both scoring quite high, and also quite a lot of people already seeing the quality of available ingredients is affected.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, also the drought situation, and I think that could also, really affect it, and also not being able to get to the farms as well, or to the fields. So we really see we've also been keeping an eye on that as well, and speaking to the guys in the market as well, and they foresee that might be quite an issue. Yeah, I'm not surprised about the cost. Obviously, I think that's a big one. That's significant because of all the factors, not just the raw materials. I think at a stage in the COVID side, the prices also shot up, but not necessarily just because of the raw materials, but really just about the supply and the logistics. So now we see it even more. But those three, combine those three, I think, it's definitely tough times. So yeah.
Indeed. You probably need to share your screen again because we lost
Yeah,
the slide.
100%. Just let me know if it's in perfect. So I'll quickly move on to the next one. So that will be the microbial challenges that we see. The microbial risk in feed and feed ingredients. So also I'm gonna just show you in terms of what we look at across our program, which is the feed safety program. So bacteria, so we look at intrabacteria risks, or intrabacteria and salmonella as well, molds. So and that, I think that is the most prevalent one for us today, specifically in the grains. And then also yeast we see also a lot on the co-product side, on the food processing side. So this is basically what we cover, and then obviously mycotoxins as well. But for today we will focus a lot on the mold and how that affects the grain quality and also nutritional value. So also looking at the factors that affect the mold. So also now when we talk about quality, also coming from the field and then into storage. So we really look at these things, and maybe the first one, the kernel damage, broken particles, that can also make it more susceptible for mold growth because of that broken particles. And then the rest almost creates the perfect environment for these molds to grow. So, and that's the moisture, oxygen, temperature, relative humidity, pH. And then also water activity. And that is also something that the pet food industry historically always, and obviously until now as well, have monitored quite effectively, because they need to store also the pet food for quite a long time, and also trying to be at that at 10% moisture. So they really look at that water activity level, which I think is also very relevant for grains as well. So when we go in and look at water activity, basically the free water that's available for basically molds and microbes to grow. So if we look at this graph, we can already see at 0.6 water activity, we can already see molds growth, and obviously there's also a direct link to the moisture. As the moisture goes up, water activity also tends to rise, and then we can also see yeast, gram-negative and gram-positive. So really looking at this side of the things as well, on the grain side, where it's predominantly previously pet food and feed that would really get the attention of the water activity. And then, of course, like I mentioned, mycotoxins, and that is something that is produced by various molds. So once the molds are put under stress, then we see the mycotoxins being developed. And there's also on the field mycotoxins already being formed if there's mold. And that's also because of the weather, because of certain biotic and abiotic factors, which we will also little bit touch on later. But really, we see them a lot. 80% of commodities or feed ingredients are contaminated with mycotoxins. I think it's something that a lot of us in the industry also quite monitor extensively. So definitely something to look at when we look at microbes in feed ingredients. So to put that in perspective, just from a mold growth perspective, and also then from the mycotoxins. So this is a graph of the full grain value chain, basically, of 2018. I think still very relevant. Obviously, the numbers will just differ a little bit. But if you look at the total production capacity, which is 3.153 billion metric tons, the total harvested yield, so that's basically what's effectively a harvest, and you can see already quite a significant loss. But if we move a little bit down to storage losses and field mycotoxin contamination, we see really significant amounts of grains that we lose on a yearly basis because of this, because of storage losses, because of spoilage, because of mycotoxin contamination. That amounts about to 30% of the total losses. And if we now multiply that, it's really if we put it in a monetary value, it's a lot of money. But more importantly, also looking at feeding the global population, we can't afford to lose 600 million metric tons of grain annually. We also that's where we also feel we can make a big difference and make an impact. So really looking at that side of the program, and that's where raw material quality and also from the feed side comes in to help mitigate those risks and lower these losses. Again, Mars, a quick one, and then we've got a poll again. Always nice to get the audience engaged as well.
Yes. Here we go. Let's go ahead and launch the next poll and get your input. Again, this is one where you can actually select multiple answers. So here we go. About the quality analysis that you currently run for materials. Probably they won't cover every analysis that is available, but we tend to pick the most important ones here. Yeah. Just interested to see which ones you are already applying. I see the bars are starting to move, so people are voting. Yeah. That's great. Still moving, so people are still busy making their selections. Just keep it open for a bit longer. Okay, I will go ahead and close the poll and share again the results. So I think a nice, quite even spread, with the exception of the water activity, which tends to lag behind a little bit.
Yeah. We see that as generally that's not always looked at, but I think there's definitely value in it to even if you do a quick check. I think that's always with the moisture and the water activity, like I mentioned in that graph, there's quite a easy way or indication that we can see my water activity is a little bit high. There might be some risk. Not probably physically you can see already, but the mold counts and the microbes might already be there, consuming those valuable nutrients. So I think that's very nice. But the normal ones that we see are obviously making up the composition of our to see the protein levels, the moisture level, all of those things. So yeah, also one that we always see.
Yeah.
Good. Now I just need to share. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now
Okay.
we come. Yes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, thanks, Marcella. So now we come to the four strategies, the four pillars of let's say the big strategy of optimizing our grain investment. So we're gonna start with the first one, and that's measuring our quality right from the start. I think that's very important. I think not just now, but always. I think it's very good to measure, and also, like I mentioned before, from seed to feed. So basically, already from the field which is left, that's the farm, that's let's say the crop that's planted. So we really see a lot of factors that can influence quality, which is sometimes out of our control, like weather, and also then pests and rodents that's present. Also, then out of those molds, the field mycotoxins that's also produced. And then when we move to storage conditions, or to the storage side of things, we also see not always optimal storage conditions, and this can add to obviously putting the raw materials in a perfect environment for those microbes to grow. Also, the risk factors like temperature, moisture, and then also the shelf life, how long you want to store it. So all those things we really need to measure. And then when it comes to the feed mill, the quality and nutritional value, I think for all the nutritionists also out there, it's very important that they produce or formulate the best feed for the animal, and they need good quality raw materials to do that. So really to measure all those things from seed and to feed, and then also the quality parameters. So and I'll also go into the USDA grain quality system, how they score it. I think it's quite a nice way just to look at it. But really looking at those factors, and like you also now with the poll as well, the moisture, then are the physical factors as well that can also add to those risks, and also mycotoxins. So basically all those that we currently have in the poll is also quality parameters that we need to measure, and that we need to make sure we know about. So the corn quality grades. So I think this is also quite a nice way of looking at it. And also this is in the perfect world where we would see number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. So this is also based on the weight, let's say per bushel, and then also heat damage, total damage, and then also broken kernels, also foreign material. So that also plays a role in how they grade it. And we really see already that we're moving towards the 2, 3s, and 4s, moving a lot, let's say along the line. And I think the number 1 grade might not be very available, and they also supply this to the variant industries as well, which I'll also quickly just show you from a supply hierarchy standpoint. So basically, the number 1 quality corn would normally go to the food production. It will then go to the field production, and then only to the feed production. So at this stage, when quality is also compromised, we might sit in our feed production with quality 3, 4, 5 grains, which makes it the risk very high. Also, from a nutritional point of view, also worried to see those type of grain coming in. So we really need to make sure that we safeguard what we get, that we use to the full potential of what we get, especially in these times where there's uncertainty. And then also in the feed production, there's also let's say a preference. So, and that's also put up here, and it might really change from region to region, but this is normally how they put it pet food first, aqua second, dairy, poultry, and then swine. So it also has to make up of the amount of energy used. But it also depends on the markets and where you are in the world, how this is made up. It might be that dairy is a little bit up or dairy is a little bit down. Swine might be up. But more or less, just to give you an idea of how the supply hierarchy at the moment is looking. So then we move on to number 2, to understanding the value of materials. So to understand what value and what investment I've made to see, really what we can use. And again, I use the nutritionist. So and the NIR as an example of when our grains come in, we need to check to see if it's up standard that we basically bought or that we basically paid for, we invested in. To make sure that what's available inside the feed grain is then also available for the animals to absorb, and the availability of the protein and also the digestible nutrients as well. So this is just the makeup of different feed grains, just to give you a picture that there's obviously some limits to it, but we need to make sure that we know how valuable these numbers are for sure. When we look at mold specifically, there's really a big effect of mold contamination on nutritional value, specifically obviously in stored grain. Again, it could come from the field already. When we put it in storage, it's not optimal. We can get further degradation. So this is also a study done where we see when they took the metabolizable energy, crude protein, and fat in consideration, and then also see the losses in those categories, just from a good corn to moldy corn. So there's really significant nutrient loss that the molds can affect, and then also couple that with mycotoxins as well. Maybe not prevalent right there, but also then we see it in the animal. But if we put that in, just quantify it, we see average loss in nutritional value, about 7% for wheat, 7% for barley, and about 6% for corn. If we take the average nutritional value loss. So also I've put in the most recent prices, which actually, while I was putting it in, you actually realize how significantly the prices of raw materials have gone up. So yeah, it's scary actually. But also if you put that into value, it's really a lot of financial loss as well, and then also obviously nutritional loss. So really important for us to look at the quality to see if we can really minimize these losses, as well as obviously losses for down the line to the animal as well. So number 3, identifying the risks. So here we again touch on the microbes. So again, just to reiterate, I think mold is definitely the one that we're going to look at if we look at grains. So really, we know it's an occurrence in raw materials and feed ingredients. So we really see it, like I mentioned, in field as well already, post-harvest in the transportation and storage, and also in the feed mill. But really looking at the bottom list more as a critical control points, what we look at when we go to a client or customer at their farm, silo, whether it be the feed mill. So we really look at critical control points, and these are the critical control points that we see when we normally get buildup or wet spots, as we call it. If there's some condensation, which I'll also just briefly show you how we look at, and how also from that point of view, it's also a big risk. So when we look at spoilage in the silos, and these are now silos, but also put it in perspective of a storage bin, a bag. If you store it in bags, it depends on what region you are in. But really looking at this as a way of the risk of moisture migration and condensation, or also what we call wet spots. So if you look to the far left, This is a normal homogeneous moisture distribution. So what happens normally, the moisture migrates to the center and then going up top. So from a high day temperature from a low water activity value, and then overnight when the temperature drops, there's normally a high, it could be a high water activity level. It tends to migrate up top and then fall on top of the pile, and there we see obviously moisture, we see higher water activity, we see condensation. So it's really the perfect place for microbes to grow. So really also looking at these risk factors when we take into account when we store that, yeah, and how we store it to make sure that we don't get these types of things happening. So also factors that influence mycotoxins. Again, this walks hand in hand. So as we can see also across the globe, certain areas in Europe and also in South America where we have drought currently. Also from South Africa's point of view, they had late rains. So they will obviously also have a challenge coming harvest. Also with mycotoxins and probably mold. So really we see these factors we don't really have control over, but it plays such a big role going forward also from a quality perspective. So now we come to executing a mitigation plan. So also looking at how we can, what we can do in terms of this, what can we do to safeguard our investment? And there's really, I think there's a couple of things that obviously comes to mind, and what we probably currently are doing, and some we are not doing. But it's really looking at a really integrated approach will give us the best result. So if we quickly look at obviously natural artificial drying, once it comes off the harvest, we sometimes dry it, whether it be naturally or artificially in dryers. That's not always possible, and it's sometimes costly. Also now with the prices of labor going up, prices of fuel, prices of energy, all of that. So that really is a costly exercise. I think on-farm storage monitoring, so also aeration and coring systems. It's also a fine art, if you will, to get the exact right aeration going, and also being able to have those coring systems in place to make sure that we outload it in a specific way. Then also portable moisture analysis, so also doing spot checks. I think that also works very well. Conveyor systems, gentle handling to make sure that we don't break those kernels. But obviously all of those cost money, specifically those big conveyor systems, and then also cleaning methods, removing like sieves and removing all those broken kernels. But like I mentioned, really an integrated approach will give us the best result, and that's where also my program for raw material quality comes in to help assist with that integrated approach. So it's really built on three pillars. So also just to give you an idea of let's say the people that we talk to, from my side, farmers, also crushers, harbor treatment as well that we do. It's really also the purpose of this is to maintain nutritional value from seed to feed, really assist with maintaining that investment that you've made. So it's built on a gap analysis, a feed safety gap analysis, where we go out, we go to the farm, we go to the feed mill, we go to the crusher, and we really identify those critical control points to make sure that just to be that fresh pair of eyes as well at that point to make sure that we identify those risks. We take samples. We also do analysis of those samples. Also, like I mentioned before on the poll, so we really get the microbial blueprint of the plant or of the storage facility, and then also couple that with the right product portfolio. So products in this sense we do blends of organic acids, free organic acids, and also buffered organic acids. And then also just you can have the best products or great products, but it's how you apply those products. So an integral part of our program is also the dosing equipment. So being able to apply that in the correct way. If we quickly, I'll just go through the three pillars. So basically, across the supply chain or the feed safety supply chain, we take samples, as I mentioned, to get the blueprint. We do the analysis, also the normal analysis, and then also we can do a little bit more as well to that really tailor-made approach. Or we've got labs all over the globe as well to assist with that, which is called Master Lab. And then also from a product perspective, like I mentioned, not just the free organic acids, but also the buffered organic acids for that long-lasting effect and that extended shelf life. So we really look at also innovative ways from a product perspective to do that, also in a safe and user-friendly way, where we use the dosing equipment. So they're also a very flexible, fully automatic in the way that we apply it, being able to remotely log in. So really a tailor-made approach to what the customer needs. And these are basically just an example of our dosing systems as well. So really just a all in all integrated program solution-based approach that we go through. And also just to show you some trials that we've done with specifically Phylax 40HC liquid, which is our premium mold inhibitor, just on corn quality to preserve that. So if you look at the graph, so A, B, and C, A being corn at arrival, so that's the moisture level, corn on arrival. B is corn after drying, and then we treated actually the dried corn. And you can see also from a water activity point of view how it also is shaped up, and then also from the mold count. So just in summary, we were able actually to increase a little bit the moisture, increase the water activity, but actually the mold counts went down. So, and we extended the shelf life as well. So yeah, all in all, very positive results for us to make sure that we, even in difficult circumstances, we can also get the mold counts to reduce, and those molds obviously consume our valuable nutrients in the raw materials. And then just another one that I want to show that we also did for high moisture corn storage. This was specifically done in Thailand, where we really saw a return on investment, specifically on storing and shelf life. So this was done by a sliding scale on the price. So as the moisture goes up, obviously the price goes a little bit down because the risk goes up. So we really saw a return on investment of corn stored up to 1 year. I think that 15.5% moisture, quite a decent return on investment. So also nice to see that also by extending the shelf life and also capturing that valuable nutrients that we can also see a return on investment from that point of view. Marcella, I think we've got our last poll then.
Yes, we do. So last time to get your input indeed. So I will go and launch, and again, it's a question where you can enter multiple answers. Here we go. We would really like to get your input on what you or your customers are currently already doing to safeguard grain quality. Just waiting for those votes to start coming in. Yes, here we go.
There we go.
People always need a bit of time to read.
Yeah.
just leave it open for a bit longer. In the meantime, people, as we are getting closer towards the end of the webinar, if you do have questions, please fill them in. We have some time at the end to answer some of your questions. Okay, I will go ahead and go and close and share the results. Interestingly, we have quite a tie there with the top three, which is interesting because we have a nice group of people here, so it's very equally spread.
No. Of course, I think if also, like I mentioned before, if we couple, it's again an integrated approach. So not just the let's say preservation side, but also the other factors. So optimizing storage, try to procure the best quality grain. So I think all of that obviously plays a big role in ultimately safeguarding the quality. But I think we've also seen that also now preserving also with higher moisture, we are able to do that as well. So I think definitely the people that's not considering that, I think that's definitely something that we can look into. But nice spread.
We are back. Yeah, please continue.
We are back, and then just for the last time, or the take-home messages, I think just a quick summary, and I've mentioned it now going through it. Just understanding the value of our investment. I think now more than ever, it's so important because we're unsure. There's uncertainty. We're not sure what the quality might look like. Probably now it's still relatively okay, but in the coming months, we also don't know how long this will affect us, the situation, the conflict situation. But we're talking about in 2022 to the first half of 2023, probably. So, really looking at safeguarding our investment, realizing the risks. So I think it's pretty clear when we look at grains what the risks are. It's not just prices, but it's the microbial challenges as well, and then mitigating those risks with an integrated approach. And something really that we pride ourselves on of assisting and partnering up to help mitigate those risks. So with that, I thank you so much for listening, and always open for taking questions, and not just now. If the time has run out or there are no questions, feel free also to send us the questions. We will definitely look at that and come back to you.
Thank you so much, Peter. And indeed, please keep entering your questions. Actually, a question that came in was related to the storage, because you mentioned you can treat your products, but do you have any best practices or best tips to, when you talk about improving storage facilities, what would be the first things to look at, or what would be the first things to tackle when it comes to improving your storage conditions?
I think one I mentioned is also aeration. So also looking at that, and I think that's a topic on its own as well, which is I also say very technical, but it's also to getting that correct. Also making sure that that side of things, and it's very coupled with the relative humidity outside and the temperature inside. So corn is a very good insulator. So we want to get that that moisture, that air through from the bottom to the top. I think that's something really you can look at aeration. Also, if you get high moisture, there's and you've got low moisture corn, also we're looking at blending that as well. So from that, let's say from a grain management point of view, not just the storage, but also the let's say when we call the foreign matter as well, those dividers, I think that would also play a big role to maybe sift those debris out and those broken kernels, because the broken kernels are the ones susceptible also for the mold growth, and that can also again move through the whole pile. So we want to definitely minimize that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And I guess also molds would also damage the kernel, allowing even a better environment also for bacteria or yeast to develop, right? So
of course,
yeah.
Yeah, especially when especially when we see it already on the field, so that already damages. And then from there on, yeah, we need to really be attentive on that specifically.
Yeah. Let me quickly scroll through some other questions. The corn quality grading that you mentioned from the US grain. Perhaps you already explained, but do you know if there's they also have this kind of grading available for other types of grain besides corn?
Yeah. So they do have so specifically now on the wheat side as well. It's a similar system. So also where they take into the weight into account, and also let's say when the broken kernel foreign material, the BCFM percentage. So they also do take that in account. So they have really a system for all the grains, which is quite nice, and which is also available online. So yeah, if the audience, obviously they can check that out as well. I think that's also a very nice and an easy way to look at the gradings. Very nice.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned that they end as well with the drying of grains. Do you have any idea or any guidance on the most appropriate dry method for corn, for example? Because a question that came in was like drying costs are of course quite high, and that takes a lot of energy. Is it possible to maintain a bit of a higher moisture level when you treat products, for example, with organic acid?
Yeah. So we also, like we mentioned, there's natural drying, but that's always could add to risk because it's outside. They dry it sometimes out. That's the conventional way. The big dryers or the portable dryers, that also now, like we know, that will also cost a lot of money. But we've also seen, we've really seen with higher moisture corn, we are able to treat that and preserve it quite nicely for a longer period. We see that always in Germany as well. We have swine farmers, home mixers that sometimes store it at 20% for 9 months. So we really can assist with that as well. So you really can, with a higher moisture, preserve that for sure, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. I think that's it for the main questions for now. So I would like to wrap up today's session. Thank you for all our attendees. Thank you very much for your input in the polls. Very interesting for us to get your information in. And thank you very much, Peter, for explaining today's story and sharing your knowledge on the grain management. So thank you, everybody. We really look forward to seeing you again to any of our future webinars. Please become a member of our LinkedIn channel so you can see the announcements of the new webinars on there as well. And with that, I would like to wish you a great day or a great evening, and see you again next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys, for joining, and yeah, we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.